Hi, I'm Virginia Walker, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Special Education at Illinois State University.
And I'm Karen Douglas, an associate professor in the Department of Special Education.
In our presentation, we're going to describe a literature review project that we've been conducting over the past semester. We'll be describing a literature review that involves examining studies in which paraprofessionals have implemented systematic instruction for students with disabilities.
First, we're going to share some background information with you. Systematic instruction is considered an evidence-based practice for teaching individuals with severe disabilities. Systematic instruction is a systematic way of providing prompting and feedback to the learners, and this instruction is eventually faded out to where more time or less prompting is provided to the students. Systematic instruction has been used to teach a variety of both academic and daily living skills. As far as functional daily living skills, we're talking about grocery shopping, grooming, brushing teeth, cooking. All those skills can be taught using systematic instruction to individuals with severe disabilities. Two previously conducted literature reviews found that there isn't a lot of information known about teaching paraprofessionals to successfully implement systematic instruction. As far as paraprofessionals, we're talking about teacher aides, additional staff in the classroom working with these individuals. So we need to find out more about effective practices for teaching paraprofessionals. And that's kind of the basis of the meta-analysis that we're conducting. We want to figure out what guidelines there are or should be used in designing and implementing effective practices to support paraprofessionals when they're teaching in the school setting for individuals with severe disabilities. List of the methods that we followed. First, we conducted a literature search. Second, we conducted an inclusion and exclusion assessment. Then we conducted our article review. Then we looked at the articles and calculated the effect size of the interventions. And then finally, we completed some descriptive and inferential analyses. So to provide you with a little bit more detail, in phase one, which was our literature search, we conducted an electronic database search, and we really looked for and used two key terms, paraprofessional and systematic instruction. We examined the references of the articles that we found in any relevant journals and the existing reference list from other reviews that have previously been conducted. We also included any dissertations or theses that we found, and ultimately we ended up with 348 studies. So in phase two, in order to determine if these 348 studies should be included, we reviewed the abstract of each of the studies and applied a strict inclusion and exclusion criteria. More specifically, we looked at, did the study include and use single case research? Did it include a student with a disability? Was systematic instruction the intervention? And then also, was the paraprofessional the interventionist in the study? If the study met these criteria, then we would include it in our literature review. So from our inclusion and exclusion assessment, we determined that 26 articles remained in our database. We did have two independent coders rate our articles, and their inter-rater agreement was high.
After we completed the inclusion and exclusion assessment, we reviewed each of the remaining 26 articles. We rated each article across 37 variables in order to summarize participant characteristics, intervention characteristics, and also to describe the overall quality of the studies. We had the same two independent coders code each article, and our agreement across coders was high at 94%. We're also interested in summarizing the overall intervention effect across all studies included in the review. In order to do this, we'll need to go back to each article and extract raw data values from each participant graph. And we'll be able to do this with a computer program called Ungraph. Once we've extracted the raw data values, we'll use tau u, an effect size metric, to estimate intervention effect for each participant included in the studies. Once we've extracted the raw data values and estimated intervention effect across participants in the study, we'll summarize our results by conducting descriptive analyses first. This will involve calculating frequencies and percentages across descriptive coding items. We'll also conduct moderator analyses in order to determine if any of these intervention or participant characteristics contribute to more pronounced intervention outcomes. We've been able to complete preliminary descriptive analyses, and we'll share some of those results with you now. On this slide, we present information about the paraprofessionals that were involved in these studies and their highest level of education. As you can see, a majority of paraprofessionals had some college experience. However, fewer had degrees, a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree in college. Some had a high school degree, and for a large number of paraprofessionals, we were unable to determine their highest level of education. We examined whether or not paraprofessionals in the study received training in order to implement systematic instruction. And for those who did receive training, we examined who the trainer was. Based on our preliminary results, we found that a majority of paraprofessionals received training from outside experts, including researchers. Far fewer paraprofessionals received training from teachers within the schools, including general education teachers and special education teachers. We also examined the skills taught by paraprofessionals through systematic instruction. And we found that for a majority of student participants, social and communication skills were targeted through systematic instruction. Fewer paraprofessionals delivered systematic instruction to address challenging behavior, to teach academic skills, to teach functional daily living skills, and finally, no paraprofessionals implemented interventions to teach motor or physical skills. In terms of student participants, we examined the disability diagnoses across these participants, and we found that only 7% of students had a diagnosis of intellectual disability, 24% had a diagnosis of developmental delay, 45 participants had a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, and nearly half of the participants had a different diagnosis, which could have included, for example, a specific genetic disorder such as Down syndrome. Steps in this project include 4 primary steps. First, we need to conduct our effect size calculations to examine the overall effectiveness of paraprofessional implementation. We also need to run our moderator analyses to examine whether certain participant and intervention characteristics contribute to intervention outcomes. As mentioned earlier, we're also interested in examining the overall quality of the studies that were included in this review. And in order to do so, we're going to apply the What Works Clearinghouse standards for single case research to assess the quality of the evidence presented in our literature review. And then finally, once we have summarized the results of our literature review, we can begin to identify implications for practice.
So from here, we think it's important that some future research really evaluate and look at general educators and special educators training the paraprofessionals to implement systematic instruction. We think this is an important piece as these are the natural supports of paraprofessionals in the classroom as opposed to outside researchers coming in. Another important area is that we need to look at the effectiveness of specific coaching strategies. And in terms of this, how much coaching is necessary? What's the dosage? What type of coaching is provided and effective? These are other important things to look at in the future. And then finally, we want to teach paraprofessionals to implement systematic instruction across different skill areas. As you can see from our preliminary results, most of the instruction occurred related to social communication skills and behavior skills, to where we really need paraprofessionals teaching more academic and functional daily living skills in the future.
We hope you enjoyed our presentation. The slides have our list of references, and if you have any questions or comments about the presentation, feel free to reach out to either of us.